Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Noni Madueke posts a farewell message to Chelsea fans after becoming an Arsenal player. UEFA have issued a warning to Chelsea and Aston Villa about potential transfers. We have a price tag regarding Alfie Gilchrist. Renato Veiga is on the shortlist of Atletico Madrid, and RB Leipzig have revealed the price tag for Xavi Simons. Now, of course, I'll be giving my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported, but more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 10k by the end of 2025. Kicking things off, the Athletic have reported that Madueke recognised he was part of a previous generation of Chelsea signings and that the club was moving in a different direction. They continued to report that Noni Madueke's deal was orchestrated by agent Ali Barat. Barat has a good relationship with Chelsea as well as Arsenal sporting director Berta. And Noni Madueke posted a goodbye message to Chelsea Football Club and the fans, and it was attached to a video which was actually very well put together. And it reads, "I want to thank you for the last 3 or so years. To every staff member that helped me along this journey, thank you. To my teammates, thank you for everything. I leave with only love and admiration for you guys. We achieved so much this season and I honestly wish you guys nothing but the best. To Enzo Maresca, it was a privilege to play under you. Thank you for trying to better me as a player and as a person. Lastly, thank you to every single Chelsea fan. Thank you for the love, thank you for the praise and also the criticism. I appreciate it all. I leave here with nothing but fond memories. Love, NM11. Now, to be honest, this is a really nice message. There's a lot to break down here, really. For Noni Madueke to recognise that he was part of a previous generation of signings and the club was moving in a different direction, I kind of feel for him in a way, because you have like multiple angles to this. Now, I don't just want to kind of stick up for Madueke, so we should have kept him. I've made my opinions very clear on Madueke, and so are you guys in the comments, right? He was very hated by a big portion of Chelsea fans, and for the rest of most fans, or if not all fans, we were very frustrated with the way he plays because we know how good he can be, but he was just very inconsistent, right? And I liked Madueke. I stuck up for him a lot last season, but I also, criticised him when it was due. He is a very frustrating player to watch. But for him to recognise he's part of a previous generation of transfers and the club's going in a different direction, it's just him being self-aware. Of him being like, I don't want to be part of this project going forward because it's moving differently to where I joined. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fair enough. The interesting thing is him recognising that and using Ali Barat as the agent to broker the deal with Arsenal. Now, I was looking at the Arsenal socials, obviously, when he was unveiled, and he was saying that the Arsenal team that they currently have can win absolutely everything, which, hey, look, I know he's got to say something good for the socials, but we shall soon see, right? They do have a very good squad, we know that, but I feel like this message is actually really genuine from him. And I think it's really nice. I want to salute Madueke for the service, the hard work that he put in. Yes, he's very frustrating, but he's put in so much work. He has developed in a Chelsea shirt, not to where we want him to be standard-wise as fans, but he has developed as a player. He stepped up when he's needed to. He has been inconsistent. He is very frustrating to watch, but I appreciate the work that he's put in a Chelsea shirt. And I think that's the least that we can do. What he said here, Enzo Maresca, it's a privilege to play under you. He wants to thank the fans for the criticism as well as all the love and support. I respect that a lot. Now, he's moving on to Arsenal. I wish him all the best. I hope he doesn't do too well, though, because he is going to a London rival. But I don't want to see his career spiral, right? I want him to go and do well. He's a very talented player who is very young, international player, and he can kick on. I'm just hoping that this move to Arsenal for him on a personal level works out and makes sense for him. If he gets more game time and he can develop, then I'm happy for him. But at the same time, I don't want him to perform very well against Chelsea because that's just the tribalism in me. Now, like I said, I've been very conflicting with Madueke. I've viewed my frustrations. I also said that I wouldn't mind if we sold him or if we kept him. I was kind of on the fence with it, really. But I just think this is really nice. And like I said, the video that was attached to it was very well edited. And I watched it and I thought, you know what? Like, obviously, it's a highlight reel and it encapsulates all the good things that he done. He had some really good spells, and he also had some very poor ones. But look, at the end of the day, thank you for your service, Noni. I really appreciate it. Go have fun over at Arsenal. Hopefully you don't win anything, and hopefully you don't have good games against us because, well, we're Chelsea, and we don't want that to happen. But I do appreciate the service, and I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions down below on your viewpoint of Noni Madueke. I've seen people in the comments call him a snake, a traitor, and I just don't think he is, if I'm being honest. I don't think that he's done this out of malice. I think he's taken a step back, had a bit of self-awareness and reflection and gone, I just don't think that he fits in or he's going lower down in the pecking order. Or the club's going in a different direction to what he was promised or what he was sold potentially. And he's made the smartest move for his career. So, I don't think he's a snake or a traitor personally. But I understand that you go to a London rival and it's all convoluted and some players are forced to move, etc. I don't think Noni did this in this case. I feel like it was a mutual thing of Chelsea kind of wanting him out and Noni going, this makes sense in my career. Plus, Arsenal and Chelsea have this weird relationship when it comes to transfer for players. Arsenal just buy our players, right? So thank you for the profit. Really appreciate it. I also find it very interesting that Noni Madueke used Ali Barat, the guy who orchestrated the Caicedo deal, the guy that Xavi Simons is hiring to broker a Premier League move. This guy seems to be a super agent right now, a bit like Jorge Mendes, if that's how you pronounce his name, I think it is, who's just always in everyone's pockets and everyone's pictures and selling his players, right? Moving them around for massive agent fees. But Ali Barat seems to have good relationships with the right people and the right clubs and could broker deals. So to broker a deal between Arsenal and Chelsea, you know, even though we've got this strange relationship of transfer of players, if Ali Barat is at the heart of that, then we can see why it works so well for both clubs, in terms of business anyway. But I find that very strange that Noni Madueke has used Ali Barat, or interesting. You know, he's used Ali Barat, and now Xavi Simons is using him to broker a deal to the Premier League, and the two clubs interested are Chelsea and Arsenal. We're going to speak about Xavi Simons later in the video, so make sure you keep watching. But I thought that was important to note. Brokers a Caicedo deal, the Noni Madueke deal, and the Xavi Simons deal is kind of on the horizon. So I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below about Ali Barat. Ben Jacobs has reported that Chelsea are looking for around £5 million for Alfie Gilchrist. Derby, Watford, Middlesbrough and Blackburn have all inquired. Now, I find this very strange. £5 million to me sounds very, very little for Alfie Gilchrist. However, you know, the market determines the price. How a few of you have told me in the comments in yesterday's video. I always find it interesting to discuss with you guys what we value players as, what we think is the right money, because let's be honest, the market is wild. The amount of money being thrown around in the Premier League, I know it's different to other leagues, Serie A or the Championship or, you know, La Liga, etc. Saudi money, obviously, it's all wild. It's completely bonkers, in my opinion. So I love asking you guys your thoughts and opinions about it. But again, ultimately, yes, you are right in terms of the market does determine the value. But genuinely, after yesterday's video, I spoke about Alfie Gilchrist, and £5 million seems like an absolute steal for any club that picks him up. He's still incredibly young. He's incredibly talented. He plays with passion. He can defensively, he's solid. He's going to have a really good career, and I hope he really kicks on. And wherever he moves to, I hope he does very, very well. Interesting to see if Derby, Watford, Middlesbrough, Blackburn are the winners of this race, and if they're willing to pay the £5 million. Because, of course, the Championship have different budgets, different wage structures, etc. Be interesting. I don't know who I'd prefer him to go to out of all of those, if I'm being honest. But I just thought it would be interesting to talk to you guys about £5 million valuation. I would have thought that he would have gone for, you know, at least 10 million. Or maybe that's me being wild in this market and just speculating what I think he should be worth at his age, and you know what we're asking for him. But to me, 5 million seems like we're shortchanging ourselves a little. Could be his contract, I don't know. Could be his age, I don't know what it may be. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Where would you like to see Alfie Gilchrist go if he goes to the Championship out of these clubs? And do you think £5 million is enough for him, or would you ask for more? I saw some comments yesterday saying like 26 million to Brighton. Everyone was agreeing with the Saudi. Like, if Saudi come in, just get what you can. 40 million gone. And I think that's a valid route, right? And we all know that if Saudi come in, you can just raise your price to whatever you want, and 9 times out of 10 they're going to pay for it. But £5 million to me just seems massively cheap. So I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Martin Ziegler from The Times has reported that UEFA has made it clear to Chelsea and Aston Villa that it will scrutinise any player swap deals to ensure the fees have not been inflated after taking issue with at least one previous transfer. Both Chelsea and Villa have agreed that if it breaches the settlement agreements, they will be banned from European competition for a season. I find this very interesting. This is where UEFA and the Premier League vary, right? It seems like Premier League will kind of accept loopholes for a longer period and then they'll close them up and give you plenty of notice. UEFA just don't seem to take any crap. They just don't. They're like, nah, we ain't having that. We ain't doing that. You want to sell your hotels to each other? Nah, don't count with us, mate. Might work for the Premier League, not in UEFA. You know, we've been hit with that financial fine, or FFP. I believe it's actually before Todd Bowley's ownership takeover. I think it was previously from Abramovich. It could be. It's a grey area. I can't remember what year it is. Either way, we got FFP fine for UEFA and not the Premier League. And it's very. I actually quite rate this. I think this really does help. Now, it doesn't help the clubs because last season, obviously, Aston Villa bought Maatsen off us for 37.5 million, and then we bought Omari Kellerman for I think around 20 million. And UEFA were kind of like, that don't look really right to me. All of a sudden, there's a Murray Kellerman, academy player, £20 million. Seems like a lot of money. And even we, as Chelsea fans, were like, who? Okay, and even for the people that knew of Amari Kelly were like £20 million, that seems a bit steep. But it's clearly to help with PSR, right? And I get it. Clubs are going to help other clubs because they're all in the same boat when it comes to PSR. Everyone wants to be, as far in the healthy position as possible, and they don't want to be getting these fines and points deductions and things like that. We know how Aston Villa run. It's like 95% of their income is player wages. They are in such a bad position, and they will need to sell players to have a healthy PSR, which is why the Morgan Rogers rumours and transfer rumours that are going around with Chelsea interested in buying him. It's why Villa have slapped an £80 million price tag on him, because they're like, well, premium, and it helps with PSR. So I quite like the fact that UEFA are like, we're keeping an eye on you two, because we didn't know what you did last summer. It was a bit shady. So we're going to keep an eye on you. You guys have agreed not to breach it, because if you do, you're out of our competitions for a season. Chelsea are not going to risk that, just getting back into the Champions League, and obviously winning the Conference League last year. We want to stay on UEFA's good side. So this is very interesting to me, because if Chelsea are going to go for Morgan Rogers, and UEFA are kind of having a little scan over these transfers, does that mean that Aston Villa will be forced to reduce their price? Because let's be honest, and again, I'm asking you guys a question, your opinions in the comments. Do you actually value Morgan Rogers at £80 million, or is that Aston Villa setting a deterrent price? If we don't really want to sell him, but if a club comes in at £80 million, we'll take that money. Bit like us with Jackson. We see him as a £100 million player. But if someone comes in for 60, we'll take him. Is Jackson really rated at 60 million? Now, it's a bit of a grey area, right? Because how can you judge what a club values their own player? It's like with Frankfurt and Ekatike, sorry, I can never pronounce his name right, I apologise. 100 million euros. Is he worth 100 million euros? Well, according to Frankfurt, he is. They're like, cool, we don't want to let him go, but if you give us 100 million euros, we'll let him go. So I don't really know how they can prove that these little swap deals are inflated prices or not. Do they just go on transfermarket.com and look at their transfer market and go, oh, well, Morgan Rogers is actually technically worth 55 million, so selling for 80 is an inflated thing. I don't really know how they're going to pinpoint it and prove it, right? So I just find this very interesting. I want to know if this is going to have a knock-on effect on the Morgan Rogers deal, because we've also had Aston Villa linked with Nicholas Jackson if we go in for Morgan Rogers. So that's probably what they've seen on the rumour mill, and they just preempted things. Of like, well, if Villa and Chelsea want to do some sort of swap deal, we've got to get in and just remind them that they signed this settlement. And if you're going to have inflated prices for PSR, then we're not going to stand for it. So I quite like it in a sense. But I just find it, I think it kind of encapsulates the transfer market right now is just wild. It's wild. Everyone's trying to get as much money as possible, sell for as much as possible, buy for as cheaply as possible, which is obviously good business. Then you've got PSR as a factor for your own league, and then you've got FFP for the UEFA side of things, which you've got to try and balance. It's a minefield right now. So just very interested to know your thoughts down below. Do you feel like this will have an effect on Chelsea and Villa's transfer dealings, or is there any way that UEFA can't prove the valuations that the clubs stick on the players? I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Pletygol have reported that Chelsea's Renato Veiga is on the shortlist for Atletico Madrid. Chelsea would let him leave if the right fee was offered. They would accept 30 to 35 million euros. Now, we've spoke about Renato Veiga many times here on this channel, and I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but coming to the realisation that Chelsea are just going to offload him, even though he's a fantastic player, a lot of potential, but he's already shown the qualities he's got playing as a DM, a left-back or a centre-back. He's made it very publicly known or internally known at Chelsea he doesn't want to play at left-back. He wants to play as a centre-back. Maresca has other plans for him that doesn't clearly align. Maresca wants a Swiss Army knife player. He wants cover for Cucurella, wants cover in that DM role, which he did play and played very, very well. I think it was in Premier League against Bournemouth, as well as some Conference League games before he was put out on loan. I really liked him as a player. He's an absolute beast. Strong, he's just physical, good in the air, technically good with his feet, great passing range, defensive IQ is great, as you'd expect from a defender. But even in midfield, he was just great at breaking up play. We bought him for around 16 million pounds. So Chelsea looking to double their money. And I honestly feel that 30 to 35 million is a perfect pricing. I really, really do. I think that anyone will come and get Renato Veiga for that price. They've bought themselves a gem. He's young. He's only going to improve. And the sort of the skill set he's got in his wheelhouse is unbelievable already at his age. He's gone to Juventus, had an incredible loan spell. Yes, he had an injury during that spell as well. But even after the first couple of games, Juventus fans were like, yo, we need to keep this guy. He's an absolute beast. So I'm sad that Chelsea hasn't worked out potentially. And Veiga doesn't want to kind of buy into this project as originally sold to him. And he does want to kind of move on. And Chelsea are happy to let him go for a profit. It's kind of a win-win, really. If the player gets what they want, the club gets what they want, cool. It's the fans that lose out, essentially. But he become like a fan favourite very, very quickly because of the passion and the way he interacted with the fans and how much he showed that he cared for playing for this club. And obviously he said all the right things in the press of, like, you know, wanted to play for Chelsea, massive club, wants to play for the badge. So it's a shame. It is a shame, but 30 to 35 million, I mean, at the same time, hey, I'd take that all day long. And I think that's a price that a lot of La Liga clubs can afford. I know there's a few of them that are also struggling with FFP and generating revenue. Barcelona are an absolute mess. They could barely register players because they've spent so much money. They have to sell and sell and sell just to register players for tournaments. But obviously Real Madrid are basically backed by the king, which is wild. And Atletico have got money. We know that they've got money. So I think that'd be a really good deal, and I think he would do incredibly well at Atletico side. And Diego Simeone side would be unreal, I think. Very physical, tough, got a bit of grit. So I just want to know your thoughts and opinions down below around a 30 to 35 million euro fee. Do you think that's fair? Would you take that? Or would you really push back and just hope that Chelsea and Veiga could sort it out and we keep him for next year? Because I honestly think if he did stay, he'd get a lot of minutes in rotation as the centre-back and as the left-back throughout the whole season with all the competitions we're playing. I think primarily it would be left-back cover for Cucurella, let's be real. But I think he would also get an opportunity at centre-back because he's very good at all three positions. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea and Arsenal are among the clubs attentive to Xavi Simons' situation. The Premier League is the most likely destination this summer and the player is very tempted by this opportunity. And Ben Jacobs has reported that Xavi Simons is keen on a Premier League move. £56 million plus add-ons is understood to be what Leipzig wants. He's on Chelsea's and Arsenal's radar. Now this is where it gets interesting. We spoke previously about Aston Villa and Chelsea being warned by UEFA about inflating prices. Morgan Rogers currently valued by Aston Villa at £80 million. There's a big debate between fans whether we go for someone like Xavi or someone like Morgan Rogers. And to be honest, I would be happy with either. They're both incredible players. But it all comes down to the pricing. I personally think £80 million is too much for Morgan Rogers. I understand what Villa are trying to do. And I understand that people have varying opinions, and that's perfectly fine. That's what football's all about. Some of you think he's worth 80 million. That's perfectly fine. You know, he's got the Man City Academy link up, the Premier League experience. You feel like that's worth the extra chunk of money. And fair enough, I understand your point of view. But for me, I wouldn't want to be spending £80 million on a player who's going to be on rotation, really. You could play left, he could play right, he could play mainly down as a number 10. But he would be incredible in our Chelsea squad. When it comes to Xavi Simons, or Simons, sorry if I mispronounced that. Again, unbelievable player. This player's also got grit, passion, tracks back as well. You'll see him defending more than he attacks to win that ball back to then drive it back up the pitch. He plays with pride. Really, really like that about him. He will work his socks off in every given game. I'm not saying that Morgan Rogers won't, but Xavi, that's one of his highlights. That's why he's so sought after. His talent is also the flair he's got. He's got so much flair. He reminds me, or maybe it's vice versa, but very João Pedro-esque in the sense that it's the little flicks, the little knock-ons, the little touches here and there that kind of open teams up. And we've already seen it in the 3 games he's played with the link up with Palmer or other midfielders where he's having the little flicks off or the little touches, the little round the corners. His first touch, it's got a lot of flair about it. And I feel like Xavi has also got that flair too. But the main thing is the difference in pricing between the two players. Now, yes, you could argue that Xavi is obviously from the Bundesliga, and historically with Chelsea buying Bundesliga players, it hasn't translated very well. I will happily admit that. You could argue Havertz, Timo Werner, Nkunku's kind of on the ropes in terms of has it worked, has it not. He's definitely not performed to the levels we expect him to be doing. So he could be a player that falls into that category. I personally feel like he wouldn't, but that's me being very optimistic. And the same thing with Morgan Rogers. Yes, he's Prem proven, but doesn't mean that he's automatically going to be amazing in a Chelsea team. I'm just being optimistically positive about it and thinking that either of those players in our system, the way that we're playing as a team, oh, mate, we unbelievable, like genuinely would. But £56 million plus add-ons, let's say it knocks it up to 60 million max, right? 60 million for Xavi would be unbelievable in my opinion, especially when you think of the Premier League transfers that have happened so far. Noni going for 52.5, Alanga, you got Mohamed Kudus, all going around that between 50 to 60 million pounds. I think that slots right in there. And again, Xavi can play on the left. He can, primarily as a 10, can play on the right. He can play anywhere across that front three like Maresca likes. So, mate, if it's 20 million cheaper and we're getting a player that's just as skillful, if not has a bit more defensive work rate, but we're kind of taking the risk on the league change, I would happily do that. And that's me personally. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding the two players who you would prefer. Does the valuations change your opinion from 80 million from Villa to say 60 million all in? for someone like Xavi, does that sway your decision? Or are you really not fussed about what Chelsea spend? Because at the end of the day, we can't control what Chelsea spend. I'm fully aware of that. But I always think it's just a very interesting conversation and topic because everyone has such a varying opinion. And that's what football's all about. If I had to pick out the two, and money wasn't an object, I don't know what player excites me more. I think it would be Xavi because of his defensive work rate. And I'm not saying that you buy an attacker for the defensive work rate, but in a Maresca system where you need to press from the front and recover the ball deep, I feel like Xavi fits in a bit better. But Morgan Rogers, I feel, is a very good all-round player attacking. And yes, he does do his defensive duties as well. But one of Xavi's highlights is that. And the flair as well. Morgan Rogers has stepped up, had a very good season. And I feel like, again, he's got the relationship with the Man City Academy, the whole very good friends with Cole Palmer, and he's Prem proven. So if I had to pick, I would probably go Xavi. And I think it's just because when I watch him play, and the more I've watched him play over the last few days of us being linked to him, really delving into how he plays in terms of highlights, the goals, the assists, and just everything about him, not just at RB Leipzig, but also at PSG. Just watching more and more about him just gets me on the edge of my seat. I like Morgan Rogers, but he doesn't get me on the edge of my seat. He's a fantastic player, gets the goals and the assists, and he, again, very technical. If I had to choose, it would be Xavi. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Would you like Chelsea to make this signing if we can secure him for around £60 million all in? Do you feel like he'd have a better impact in a Chelsea team for around that price? Who, again, is going to be in rotation. He's still going to play. Rotation means that they're not going to not play, if that makes sense. There'll be plenty of minutes available. And I feel like the way that this Chelsea squad is set up, we need players that are going to come in, buy into the project, that understand that they are going to be they're going to have a role to play, and they've got to play it to the best of their abilities. Because every position now, you've got like 2, potentially 3 for your position. Right back, I'm thinking of 3 for the position. Left back, 0. Essentially, if you're clutching at straws, Gusto and Reece James can play either side. Right, cool. Centre back, there's quite a lot of depth. Defensive midfield, there's a lot of depth. Midfield, there's a lot of depth. Striking, there's a lot of depth. These players need to know their role, and they need to execute when they're called upon. So I feel like either player, £80 million for a rotation player or £60 million for a rotation player, what one sounds more realistic to you? If we're just going based off of value. If going based off of players, mate, it's so hard to pick between them. I would personally go for Xavi, but I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions down below. Who would be better in a Chelsea shirt? Morgan Rogers for £80 million or Xavi Simons for 60 all in, or even less than that. Let's say 58 if it's 56 plus 2 million add-ons. Very curious to know your thoughts. And that's all the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. And if you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that. You are a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.